So this is Mike, and I am joined by Ajay Mathur today. How you doing?
Hi, Mike. I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for taking the time out to sit and talk with me. So let's talk about your new single first. I know that in your press release you'd said that you wrote it after the death of John Lennon. So you've had that sitting around for a while, actually.
Yes, it was almost like my savior to actually do that song. I met John Lennon when I was a teenager, like
Oh,
14
did you?
in India,
Oh,
and
okay.
and that's sort of this meeting with the Beatles. They were out there meditating in Rishikesh in the ashram. That almost triggered my joy for making my own music because I
Okay.
before that I was an avid painter. You know,
Oh, wow.
I used to learn. Yeah, I wasn't really into music back then, but I guess meeting the Beatles and the whole energy out there was just awesome, and that sort of got me. And that then this sudden news about John's death, it was just was almost paralyzing for me. So I wrote that song as a kind of an outlet for me, but I never found energy or strength to actually do that song. It was still very close to me. Every time sort of it came back, wasn't really a nice thing. But last year, when things really went south everywhere with the lockdowns,
Yeah.
all my concerts, all the bookings, everything was gone within 2 weeks. Everything.
Yeah.
It was bad, and really didn't know what to do. How to move on. And
Well,
that's when I actually picked up this song, and that gave me. I looked at the song from a completely different perspective. It was more of a clarity that it's this music's still here.
right.
And I still love the music they made back then. He made that back then, and that gave me satisfaction and happiness. And I also opened up. I actually started doing more music after I sort of strummed that song and started playing that song. So I decided to finish the song and bring it out on the new album, which is coming next year in March. The new
Okay,
album.
I
Yeah.
was actually going to ask if you had any because I see you've done what a lot of musicians have done. You've done a lot of digital singles, well, because
Yeah.
everybody's can't go out and tour. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've released this is my second single out of the coming album, and there's going to be another one coming in end of January
okay,
in the States. That's sort of a lead single to the album that's going to be out early March next year.
okay.
So,
Well, and
sorry.
since I know that you wrote that song a while ago, I'm curious because so what some people may not know is prior to doing the stuff you're doing now, you had another band.
Yes, I had a band called Main Street, which was actually pretty successful here in Europe, and we had a couple of chart hits. I did about four albums plus best of album with them.
Mhm.
There was another best of in Germany, and that started in '81, and I broke it up. I disbanded in 1995, and then I took almost a 15-year sabbatical from the stage, from the stage only. you know,
Not songwriting, just plain
no,
on.
just I just focused on songwriting. I was also doing a lot of music for commercials and films.
Okay.
It's- Yeah, so I was all completely into music. I just didn't want to have anything to do with stage or promoting or even bringing out my album or anything. Just recorded. And before I released my first album as a solo artist, that was in 2011. I had about 48 songs which were finished.
Oh,
So,
jeez.
so I had a hard time choosing songs. So that's actually how I always work. I keep recording songs without any particular album in mind. And at some point, one song or a theme sort of triggers, this thing about a new album. That came with any time at all for me this time. I wasn't planning an album next year, last year. so, so, so that kind of defined the clarity is what the theme of the album is going to be. Clarity, positive. A lot of people did actually find really positive turns in their lives during this lockdown, and that's great. And that includes me as well.
That's good.
It was a good time for me, very creative. Also got another album, which I probably will talk another time, which is also in the making. So I was extremely creative during these lockdown days.
I think that's true for a lot of people. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with your music, how would you define it? Because I hear there's a lot of different things. I hear there's a little bit of blues, there's some rock, there's what some people refer to as Americana, a little bit of R&B. So, how do you see your
Well,
music?
my music is very eclectic.
Definitely.
It is extremely eclectic, and that's how I go about writing songs and finishing songs. I For me, each song is sort of it's a universe in itself. So when I'm writing a song, I don't think about, hey, does it fit in an album or in a sequence or anything. It's just that song, and that song has a kind of a mood which I have in mind, and kind of a feeling which I have, that it needs to sound like that. And that's how I arrange it, work with other musicians to get that closer to what I think that song deserves. So when the song is finished, I go move on to the next one, which could be very different. So my music is somewhere, anywhere between, people have called it psychedelic because I've got a lot of Indian instruments. Um,
Yeah, I heard
because
some of
I
that.
come from, yeah. So anything with sitar and tablas is kind of psychedelic, okay. But yes, I lived through the psychedelic age, and I enjoyed music from back then. So it definitely has something to do with that. There's a lot of Americana. I love American music. I love roots music from the States. I started making music, listening to music, listening to blues and rock and roll, basically. That's what I did back then. That was also, among all the Indian music which was going around in my family. My family's got a lot of artists and singers and musicians, but they're all focused on Indian music and Bollywood music. And for me, that was just taboo. I didn't want to have anything to do with
You
it.
wanted to do something different.
Yes, that was a kind of a rebellion, probably, to go.
Which I had read. Didn't Isn't there someone in your family that actually had worked in the whole Bollywood industry?
Yes, yes, I have two people actually.
Oh, okay.
Mukesh, who was one of the top. They call them playback singers, people who actually sang for really big stars on the Bollywood screens. And
Okay.
that Mukesh is my uncle, and Shanti, she's my cousin. She's had huge hits, again, as a playback singer and as a classical singer, doing a lot of classical radio work, which she with back then. So a lot of people, also artists. Some of them are instrumentalists or role players, and there was a lot of music and arts in my family. So it was good for me, but sort of it also, I tried to not confine myself to Indian music, and I sort of
You
really escaped that. Yeah, I escaped. I actually refound Indian music only about maybe 20 years back. I rediscovered it. I said, this is actually pretty cool. If I can, even during the Beatles days, I didn't really like the stuff they did with Indian music. Back then, I thought, why are they using that? They make such great music otherwise. But 20 years back, when I was making music for soundtracks and stuff, then I discovered Indian instruments and sort of started incorporating them in my music. And that's where it came. So it's psychedelic Americana, they call it. It's also urban, but it's songs. I have a very strong, you know, pull towards good melodies. That's what I groove on. I love melodies and good lyrics. I love that.
Well, hooks are always important in songs because you get a lot of stuff now where I'm like, "Where's the hook? The song,
Yeah,
there's nothing there."
yeah, I know. That's always important.
Yeah, so you had a Grammy nomination too, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that's a while back now. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that was
didn't get the Grammy though, but at least got the
no.
nomination. So I mean that's a good credit though.
It's a good credit. It's also an acknowledgement, that what I'm doing is good. I mean, Grammy nomination doesn't sell records per se, but it gives you exposure, which is important.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is, having done, your stuff back in the 80s up to now, obviously you've seen the change in the music industry
Oh,
and the whole thing with, being able to distribute things digitally, which, had you been able to do that back with the other band, it may have reached outside Europe.
yes. I mean, that things completely changed. I remember, trying to release my first album. That I mean, the last time I released an album CD was in 1993. The world completely changed since then. There was not, you know, we did have. I mean, we did have digital recording, but we didn't have streaming back then at all.
Right.
Streaming came much later. With the um, and downloading and all that. So there was a little, learning. It's a huge steep learning curve I had to go through, trying to release my own music. And I wanted to stay independent. Uh, Back during the Main Street days, I did suffer under that, under the sort of, this thing about band people and the record label, and it's always a back and forth. Where's the hit? We don't hear the hit. You know, that
Right.
kind of stuff. It's always difficult to juggle around, and I started releasing my albums without kind of expectations to have hits, but more of a sort of let's move that music out there. So that was the motivation. But I
No.
was successful. Like my last album, Little Boat,
Mhm.
that even won a prize in Germany as the best English language album of the year in 2018. So that was a huge success in Germany. Germany is my second biggest market next to the
Okay.
United States. Yeah. Germany is actually the second biggest market in the world next to the United States. So,
I hear that a lot, actually. There's a lot of bands, I mean, and from Germany that do tremendously well. Now, some of them don't do as well here, but yeah, it seems like the music's,
yeah, it's a big market. There are a lot of people who buy records there still, So it's got its own sort of universe, Germany, you know, and that's why it's good to be actually within that market.
okay.
But
Now, I got to ask as a guitarist myself because I count there's at least 8 guitars back there. No, it looks like there's even
oh,
more than that.
there's more than 8 guitars.
Okay,
Like, there's-
what is your go-to? Because I know you've got to have a favorite.
oh, I've got lots of favorites. These guitars, I've been collecting them, so ever since I started making music here in Switzerland, and yeah, I've got really good guitars. This is my this is very special. This is a 1975 Stratocaster.
Oh, there you go.
It's a beauty. It was actually, I bought it from a junk shop.
Really?
Yeah, it was just laying there. Strings were kind of off, so I tuned them. And so this guy sold it to me for $300, and I wasn't sure how good, if everything is fine, but it's perfect. Nothing. It works. It's got good pickups, very balanced. So this was a beauty and a real surprise to actually bump into this one. Then I've got a Gibson 1974 Les Paul there, and another. Yeah, I've got a couple of them. I've got a Guild Jumbo acoustic. That's yeah. Here it is. This is from the Guild shop in Minneapolis, directly from Minneapolis. It's a beautiful.
Oh yeah, that
guitar.
is very, that's very
It's
nice.
very nice. You can hear that on almost all my songs. Somewhere
Okay.
the guild is always there. It's got a beautiful tone.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of that seems to be, if it's make it into all your songs, that seems to be your
Yeah, I've
go-to
also got an
favorite.
old Martin just right here. Martin, this Martin is I think 1973. Yeah, I'll just get it out. The Guild is not that old, but the Martin, this has been with me for forever. Yeah, this has also gone through the Main Street days.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it does sound very, very nice. And that's just hearing it over, the internet.
Nice. I love this guitar. It's almost it's like family. It's this one been with me for such a long time. It's gone through so many different phases in my life, and I always use it. When I play live, I just use this one.
Yeah, in fact,
It's
I think I saw a couple videos where you
yeah.
were playing that one.
I use mostly use this one. Sometimes I take the Guild, but this is smaller. It's easier, and it's also, it fits my my body somehow over the years. It's great how you are a guitar sort of starts fitting you. It's really
Right,
amazing. New guitar, some of them fit at once, but some of them just almost never start fitting. It's really
right.
strange. So you play guitar, do you?
I do.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
What kind of guitars do you have?
I only have one. I have a BC Rich actually,
Oh, good, good, good,
and
good.
I'd eventually like to get my daughter into playing guitar. She has a little acoustic guitar that's just one that we
Yeah,
bought at the store for her.
yeah,
But she's disappointed because she thinks I've played guitar for years. She picks it up and can't play like me, so she gets frustrated.
yeah, yeah. It requires, you know, that passion to pull through. It's not that
Exactly.
not everybody's got that.
Right.
There's no instant gratification playing guitar.
We all wish there was, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. My son went into metal. There's a flying V.
Okay.
So I showed him a couple of chords a while back. Then he went completely metal. That was sort of his way of protest or getting away from his own, finding his own place.
So, since you have a new album coming out next year, is there going to be any touring?
Well, touring is really difficult right now because,
Yeah.
I mean, I've had one concert that was which we actually postponed twice, and that was in a TV um, concert venue.
Okay.
So it's a concert venue with people come in, but it's also a TV studio. So that was in November, and there's going to be two concerts, again TV concerts booked next year. Well, let's see if that happens, because it's always a risk with audience. And
Right.
I'd love to do concerts with audience, because just playing streaming without people,
It's a different vibe.
it's a very dry vibe for me.
Yeah.
I, I love to feel the energy, people. Just even if they're just like five people, I don't care if it's, just some people should be there. I've done a couple of purely streaming concerts, but it didn't really excite me, and I must say
Yeah. Well, and
that's.
from my perspective as a photographer, I mean, I miss the whole live.
Oh yeah, I miss it. I miss the jam sessions. I'm an avid jammer. If you, I'm always at jam sessions around here. You just go there and play with people you've never met before. That's what really excites me too. I learned how to play music like that,
Oh, okay.
jamming with other people. We didn't have YouTube back then to show to show us. We just looked it up, just
Yep.
stood in front on the front row, looked up the guitarists, and sort of went back home and tried to play, and see. But
Yep.
I was also pretty, I was brave enough to go up to the guitarist and say, hey, I tried that out. Doesn't really sound that. How did you do that? And these people were nice. They actually showed me, how to do that, which always helped. So that was always looking up at other guitarists and what they do with the fingers, looking at the fingers. And the chords came, or the licks and everything that came much later.
Right.
I learned how to write and read music. That was much later.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
I still don't know how to read music.
Yeah, well, I can't play music like up from sheet music, but I can read music. Yeah,
Okay.
and I can write music. Yeah, I'm not like real time playing from the charts. No, doesn't happen.
So, all right, I think that's about all the questions I have for you today. I think we're going to talk again because it seems like you and I probably could talk at length
Oh,
about music.
it was really a pleasure talking to you.
It was good talking to you too.
Yeah.
And of course, when the new album comes out, we'll talk again.
Okay.